Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Southeast Community Leagues Association, Ward Métis Candidate Forum. I'm your moderator, Mark Connolly, formerly of CBC Radio, also formerly of Gold Bar, where I grew up. We moved to Otwell, where I grew up some more. My wife and I, Allison, we moved to King Edward Park, where we live now, so I'm part of Ward Métis, which of course stretches from Delton in the north out to Rundle Heights and then south to Avonmore, including Cloverdale. So it's a pretty big ward. And of course, SECLA here has the Southeast Community Leagues as part of the organization of this. And so I want to thank them for putting this together. Also want to mention that we recognize that we are on Treaty 6 territory. And this has been a gathering place for generations and generations of people, and many people, Indigenous peoples, including the Blackfoot, the Dene, the Cree, Métis, the Côte Sioux. And this is an act of gratitude, ongoing commitment to reconciliation and acknowledgement of the continuous influence of their culture, language, traditions, and we are all treaty people on both sides of this equation. A short while ago, we had a rainbow going through the window. I don't know if anybody saw that. It's gorgeous. It's a good sign for tonight's event. And I want to welcome up Marshall Hartland. He's the president of SECLA, and just give you a little bit of, tell you a little bit about SECLA and how they organize this tonight, and introduce a couple other fellows who are involved. Marshall?
Hello, good evening. My name is Marshall Hartland. I am the current president of SECLA, which is a conglomeration of all the Southeast community leagues. We're an area council that sort of, our mandate now currently is to sort of put on things like this, bring people together, celebrate the interconnectedness of our community. And it was not, I want to just put it out there right now, it's not just SECLA who organized this event. We did have help from a couple other groups who will introduce themselves in a moment. So it was between the 3 or 4 of our organizing groups that brought this all together, and we're looking forward to a respectful and informative evening of political discourse. So thank you all for coming, and hello to Facebook Nation for those watching at home. I'll introduce Miles Berry.
Thanks, Marshall. I am Miles Berry. I'm tonight representing the Greater Hardisty Coalition, which is a grassroots citizens group from East Edmonton. We're lending our time and talent and expertise to ensure that residents of our 1950s era communities have a voice in renewal, sustainability, and our future. As our area has matured, its mix of commercial and residential properties has gradually come into disrepair as vacant commercial properties have emerged and crime has increased. Our team is entirely volunteer-led by civic-minded folks that are passionate about rebuilding a new, functional, connected, and healthy community node. Many team members are also sharing a professional expertise as pro bono contributions to achieve our goals. We're especially interested in conversations about gathering the business community together and diversification of our housing stock. No matter our background or experience, we welcome and we need passionate input as we move forward in further redevelopment of 101st Avenue. Thank you.
I'm Jonathan Crane, representing an organization that only got a name when we were putting on a learning event and we needed to call ourselves something, so we settled on HERE, Hardisty Evolving Through Research and Education. Just a group of folks who got together from a Facebook post, an invitation to do some research and learning ourselves about changes in the neighborhood and how that all fits together and how we can help. And so there are about 10 of us who have been gathering and rolling agenda of what seems good to learn about and focus on. And so election cycle fostering these kind of events. So really happy to be a part and add a few cookies at the back. So really glad to have you all here. Thanks.
So as you can see, we've had a tremendous response for tonight's event with a sold-out crowd, basically. We're just going to move this speaker, just so you know what. I used to be on TV, so I'm pretty handsome. And some of you might be missing out on that, we think. Or maybe it's the candidates you want to see. I'm not quite sure. I'm just going to move that over. And then you might ask, why did you finish up your career in radio? Really was too handsome for radio, but anyway, they didn't mind. It's great to see a sold-out crowd here tonight, and also, you know, as many people as we can get on live stream. We've got a couple of live streams going on, as well as Facebook, because, you know, we're all neighbors, we're all citizens, friends. We all have a stake in our community, and it's great to see you out here exercising your democratic rights, because this is what this is all about, especially at this time where in the world that can't be taken for granted. So I'm happy that you're all here doing that, and I appreciate it. My job here is to guide the candidates through a series of questions in this forum, and each person will have an allotted time for each question. Some questions have 90 seconds, some have 60 seconds, but each candidate will have the same amount of time for each. And as we go through the questions, we'll rotate through the order. So everyone will get a chance to speak first, second, third, right through till sixth, and it rotates back and forth. We have a timer that the candidates can see, so they'll know when they have a minute or 90 seconds as it counts down. And I will be watching the clock as well, and I will gently curtail you as you get to the end, but I'm sure you'll be very well mannered. We're going to ask each candidate to, you know, express themselves, express their views on the questions, but not to deviate into personal comments or critiques of their fellow candidates. We just want this to be about the issues, and I will intervene if that happens. And I would ask you as an audience to be polite and respectful for these folks up here who have given their time. They are all volunteers in this situation to be a candidate, and spending some of their own money and a lot of their time to get out there and make their voices heard and talk about the issues that affect our community. So we want to give them each some respect, and also to all the volunteers who have given their time to make this event a success. We have all 6 candidates who are in the running here in Ward Métis, and I will introduce them as we go here. On my immediate left is Abdul Hakim Dalal. Abdul Hakim. Next to him is James Goss. Caroline Matthews. Norm Parody. Ashley Salvador. And Justin Thomas. So we had some requests from some of the folks because, as you can see, we're not a raked stage. You're not on a podium. So people really at the back can't see you as you speak. If you'd like to stand up while you're responding, you may. You don't have to. If you're more comfortable sitting, that's fine. But I think people will be able to see you. I think they would appreciate that. But I'll leave it up to you. So the way we are going to start is with an opening statement from each of the candidates. And we did this starting in alphabetical order, and then we're going to switch from that. Each person will have 60 seconds, and we're going to begin with Abdul Hakim Dalal. Abdul Hakim, go ahead.
Is it on?
You're on, yep.
Well, thank you for having me. It's good to see people like you here. That's the reason why I got into politics. My name is Abdul Hakim Dalal, and I'm running to be your next City Council Ward Métis. I'm running as independent once again. I've lived here for 17 years. I work in oil and gas industry. I work in security sector. I volunteer countless hours in our community. I know our challenges, and I believe in our potential. My campaign is built on simple idea, our voice, our community. Here's my vision: affordable living, safer street and crime prevention, safer transit and LRT for everyone, stronger road infrastructure for today and tomorrow, better snow removal for every winter, better recreation center, and parks for our family and youth. This election is important to our community. We are $1.5 billion in debt. We have housing crisis. We have homeless and addiction.
That's it, Abdul. There's your timer right there. Hey, you got halfway. Okay, that was good. That was pretty good. It's good halfway. Appreciate it. All right, we'll ask James Goss. James, if you want to stand, you may, or you may sit. And when you begin, your 1 minute begins. Take your microphone there, please. There you go. Go ahead, James.
Hi, everybody. My name is James Goss. I've lived in the area for approximately 15 years. My campaign is entirely independent and self-funded. I am running because I have been a direct victim of the consequences of the city's inaction over the past few years. I live on the north side of the river along the 118th Avenue, and as I'm sure many of you know, the area is afflicted by crime and dysfunction on a daily basis. I'm running so that my family can have a safe place to live and grow up, and so the families of the area can have a place to prosper. My platform focuses on tackling crime, housing, youth job unemployment, and also the infill problem, which I believe is directly related to the housing problem. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Up next is Caroline Matthews. Caroline.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Caroline Matthews, and I'm running for Ward Métis because our community deserves leadership that will finally listen and deliver. I've worn lots of hats: police officer, business owner, so I know how to budget and meet deadlines. I've been a senior administrator and a mom. Each has taught me what it takes to get things done. I'm also trustworthy, respectful, reliable, and accountable, focused on making a real difference in our neighborhoods for all, skilled at communicating, which includes listening and working with people from all walks of life, always keeping the big picture in mind without missing the details, ready to face challenges head on and follow through, committed to building strong relationships and staying connected with the residents of the community. That's the leadership that Ward Métis deserves.
Thank you, Caroline. Up next is Norm Parody. Norm.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Norm Parody, and I'm thrilled to stand before you tonight as a candidate for Ward Métis City Councilor. As a lifelong Edmontonian and proud resident of Alberta Avenue, I've seen firsthand the challenges and opportunities that come with growth and development. With my practical experience in infrastructure projects, I'm committed to being a responsible steward of taxpayer dollars and prioritizing the needs of our community. From addressing infill development to ensuring safe and efficient public transit, I'm dedicated to working to make Edmonton a better place for all its residents. I'm not a career politician, but I'm passionate about our city's future, and I'm eager to listen, learn, and work collaboratively with our community to make a positive impact. I'm Norm Parody, and I ask for your support in this election. Let's build a brighter future for Edmonton.
Thank you, Norm. Up next is Ashley Salvador.
Well, thanks so much, and good evening, everyone. I just want to take a brief moment to thank the organizers for putting on this event. It takes a lot of work and dedication to create this kind of space, so thank you. I see a lot of familiar faces out in the audience tonight, but for those who we haven't had a chance to connect with, I'm Ashley Salvador, and I've had the absolute honor of serving our communities over the last 4 years. Prior to that, I have a master's degree in urban planning, have worked in housing, community development, economic development, as well as age-friendly cities. Those are all deeply important areas to me that I've been able to reflect in my 4 years on council. I'm thinking about the 4 years that we've had together, and there have been a lot of challenges. The pandemic, inflation crisis, social issues that are affecting all of our neighborhoods, as well as record population growth. It's been a privilege to help us navigate those challenging times, and it will be a real privilege to continue serving you. I am running as an independent candidate that's community focused. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Next is Justin Thomas. Justin.
Hello, everyone. Oh, wow. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Justin Thomas. I've been in the country for 15 years, and I've been living in this part of the town for the last 14 years. I've been a police officer for the last 12 years, serving our communities. The reason I'm running is the same reason you guys are here. We all care. I've been speaking with people for the last 10 years. For the last 5-6 years, crime is a big issue in our neighborhoods. property tax keep going up. And when you talk with real people that's struggling to pay the bill and to survive, it's a tragedy. And these are the people that worked in their entire life, played by the rules, but now they're struggling. And I want the city to control the spending, and I want the city to listen. And that's the main reason I'm running to be your next councillor. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. So we're going to mix up the order as we go through these questions, which have been prepared by a group of citizens who organized the event, taking into account the various issues that may be presented in our ward and throughout the city. So Justin, you're going to get the first chance, and then we're going to come across everybody else as we go. So Justin, this is the first question. If elected, what is the very first ward-specific motion or initiative you expect to bring to City Council?
I think I'm going to go after the blanket rezoning bylaw because the reason is that there are three areas I want to target: the bylaw 20,001, 21,001, and the city planning. None of us were consulted. They're planning to put 600,000 people within the Henday ring, and that means 60% of these mature neighborhoods will be annihilated, and none of us have any say in it. So that's one of the main concerns I hear at the doors. And the second thing, I want to improve safety, so people can go out without worrying about getting attacked, right? Shopping in Capilano Mall, it feels like you're walking into a war zone. People are worried about their safety, and things need to be done.
Thank you, Justin. Ashley Salvador?
I don't think, there we go. There we go. Just a singular motion. Okay, so thinking realistically and pragmatically about what the first opportunity to even make a motion would be, it would likely be at our budget adjustment, which is at the end of November. So it would have to be a budget-related motion. For me, I've been hearing a lot of concerns on the doors from constituents about holding builders and developers more accountable in our communities. We have seen a lot more development happening in mature neighborhoods. We need to make sure it's done right and responsibly. So the motion that I would make would be to ramp up infill compliance, bring more bylaw officers on board, bring more inspectors on board to make sure that when development is happening, we're not seeing damage to adjacent properties. I've seen far too many fences falling in, foundations damaged, and as a second part to that, I would fund it through development charges.
Hey, you know what? We're not asking for any comments, please. You know, if you're going to make comments, you're going to have to leave. Okay, thank you. No. Do you agree or not? Thank you. Sorry, Ashley. Okay, you know what? Thank you. All right? We've asked, and you're going to have to leave, please. Well, you didn't, though, right?
You got one warning. We're not joking. Let's go. Many people want to be here today. You're wasting their time. Let's go right now.
I'm a retired citizen. I'm a retired citizen. I'm a long-time resident of this area. Can I ask the people?
No, you can't. We made it pretty clear exactly what we're going to do. Please, if everybody does this, we'll be here all night. Come on. I'm sorry. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say that, an outburst is one thing. Continuing on when I ask, please, all right? And I appreciate the support of anybody who agrees with that. I'm sorry, Ashley, we can give you, 30 seconds. We'll give you 30 seconds to complete your thoughts, please.
Thank you. Just rewind there. So yeah, would be looking to bring forward more development compliance officers to make sure that when development's happening, it's done responsibly and respectfully. I would look towards a funding mechanism that would be based on increasing development charges and fees so that taxpayers are not having to subsidize that kind of program. It would be very similar to the work that I've done with problem properties, where it's actually a self-funding program that's delivering some really good results. Thank you for letting me finish.
Norm Parody, I'll re-ask the question, Norm, for you. If elected, what is the very first ward-specific motion or initiative you would expect to bring to City Council?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with the dealing with the Wild West infill that's been going on in our city. I live in Alberta Avenue, and 2 doors down from me right now, there's a single-family dwelling house that was ripped down, and now they've got enough units there for 5 different families and no parking whatsoever. And it's all through the neighborhood. It's getting like that. They got 7, 8 units on single family properties. And before you know it, it's going to be so crowded there, you won't be able to move. And it's not going to be family owned places. It's all going to be rental units. And being from Alberta Ave, there's lots of rental units there already, and it's driven down the neighborhood. And that'll be the first thing I deal with.
Thank you, Norm. Caroline Matthews, 60 seconds.
Thank you very much for that. For me, it would be around the budget. So our city doesn't have to cost more. It needs to be managed better. The city needs to get its financial house in order first. I'm the only candidate that's on a team that actually has a plan on how we're going to do this. A plan that resets the budget every year with zero-based budgeting, justifying the spending for residents. Residents have to do this themselves on a yearly basis, and it's time for the city to set examples as to the pressures that have been put on for the families. That's the number 1 issue. The number 2 issue that I hear at the doors all the time is also around the infill and the zoning bylaw. But let's remember that the zoning bylaw is not a housing bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. James Goss.
So my first step as city councilor for the Ward Métis would be to put a pause on the spending for bike lanes and other traffic calming measures. It is immediate and a slap in the face to all the citizens who cannot afford to pay their bills, who see their taxes go up year after year when the city chooses to fund pet projects when they choose to fund pet projects like bike lanes and revitalization of sidewalks. It is absolutely abhorrent, and the city, like Carolyn said, needs to get its finances in order. And I think as a first step, it would be an important one to put an immediate pause on that type of spending. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Abdul Hakim.
Thank you. I got 2 things: affordable housing and crime. Edmontonians spend 30 or 40% of their income on rent. The city is still in a gold mine, especially Roxdale. The area we can build affordable housing, or we can build townhouse. Why are we paying property tax, and the city's paying property on tax on that? Second thing, fight crime. I want to see a lot of diverse police departments in our neighborhood, especially my neighborhood in Alberta Avenue. We have more people coming around the world, so they should reflect, the police should reflect the community they serve. Those are 2 things. When I get elected, I want to make sure we fight housing crisis, we fight the crimes and street prevention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abdul Hakim. So our third question, once again, we're going to go through a rotation of people. First off, and this question will be Ashley Salvador. The question is, when confronted with a decision that will impact your citizens, what is your typical approach to making a decision? Ashley.
Yeah, so every single decision that we make around the council table in one way or another affects the community members and citizens that we serve. For me, I use a bit of a framework, and it's listen, learn, and decide. And that's how I simplify it. But there are so many voices in our communities that need to be listened to and need to be heard. I think about all the folks who call, who email, who show up to city council meetings to share their perspectives. But I also think about the voices and people who are not in those rooms, right? Not everyone can take an entire day off of work to go and spend it in council chambers. So I always try to broaden and take an expansive approach as to who I'm thinking about when I'm making decisions. I think about, what's the best practice out there? What are other cities doing? What does the research and the evidence and the data say about how we should move forward together? And then at the end of all of that, I incorporate that into my decision making. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next will be Abdul Hakim Dalal. Abdul, what's your typical approach to making a decision?
Oh, that's easy. You people, I represent you, and your voice matters to me. At the end of the day, simple, easy. Your voice, City Hall. I work in oil and gas. We can make that decision easily. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Norm Parody, you will be next.
Yeah, I'm a consumer like the rest of you. So, and I'm also a taxpayer. So I feel like I know what you want in respect to what's going on. But I do listen to everybody that's around me. And I have lots of conversations with people. And it seems like we're all on the same page for what needs to happen right now. So just as a consumer like yourselves, that's the first thing I start with and go from there.
Thank you, Norm. James Goss.
So I actually worked for Statistics Canada for a few years, and in that time, I really honed my skill on being able to learn and listen and fully understand people's opinions and where they're coming from. And I feel also as my work as a property manager, managing people's homes, it's the most important thing a person can own. And properly listening to a person's complaints, their concerns, and addressing them at every step of the way is the most important point of making sure the residents, whether it's a town or a townhouse, feel like they're being served properly. Thank you.
Justin Thomas.
That's an easy answer. I'll do the exact opposite of what the current city council is doing. So I'll give you an example. 79th Street is going to get a bike lane from 76th Avenue to 106th Avenue. How many people in the neighborhood were consulted about it? No, many. 2019, the administration consulted with less than 11,000 people. That's coming from the minister when they met with the people in Delton. And at that time, nobody in the administration, nobody in the current, that council didn't know these bike lanes were going. So they consulted with 11,000 people, 1% of the population, and they decided they will be spending $100 million. So where is the consultation? Why are the politicians afraid to speak to people? I speak with people for a living, and they're not that bad.
Thank you, Justin. Caroline Matthews.
So we need to bring better governance to how city council meetings are being held and respecting the time of residents who show up to have their voices heard. Since I announced that I was running in February, I've had 5 town halls across the ward in the different communities to get a different perspective on what was actually happening across the ward. Mainly because what we've been hearing is the cookie cutter approach has not worked. The top-down approach has not worked. But we also need to have mature and balanced voices who have the ability to build relationships with the agencies at the different levels of government that we need to work with. And that doesn't go with just calling people out all the time. So we need to bring better governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. So this next question, we're going to give you 90 seconds. It's a bit more complicated. We're going to start with you, Norm, on this one. What specific strategies will you implement to address the affordable housing crisis and reduce homelessness? And how will you measure the success of these initiatives? What role do you see the city playing in collaborating with nonprofit organizations and private developers? So in any way you would like. Norm.
All right. First of all, the homeless situation is not an easy answer. You can't legislate them into housing, no matter how much affordable housing you have. The first thing I would do with the homeless situation is try and involve the federal and provincial governments and any other stakeholders that want to get in on it to try and chip away at the homeless problem. I mean, you have people that have mental issues, people with drug issues, people that just don't want to live anywhere else except on the street. But we can't have that in our city because all they do is they keep chasing them around. I see it every day. You get homeless camps happening, police come in, push them away, and then they come right back. That doesn't fix any of that. So it is a complex issue. As far as affordable housing goes, I think the city should make adjustments for any builders that want to build affordable housing for people and give them tax breaks and so forth. And then maybe we can house the working poor better than we are right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. Next will be James Goss. James.
I'm sure many of you noticed all over our ward, there's dozens of abandoned and boarded up apartment buildings. I see these as the opportunities to add easy and quick, reliable, low-income housing to our neighborhoods. Instead of focusing developer resources on bulldozing single-family homes and filling them in with multiplexes, we should be focusing those resources at the boarded up, abandoned buildings that could provide easy and sustainable, long-term, low-income housing. I understand that an apartment building isn't a house at the end of the day, but for many people first starting out, it is the first step to home ownership is being able to find an affordable place to rent. I also believe that lowering the bar for developers in certain senses, not so much to incentivize multiplexes, but again, to incentivize the revitalization of those abandoned apartment buildings, many of which have been left vacant for years. I see that as a thing that everyone can benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Up next, we'll have Caroline Matthews. Caroline?
I feel like I've been talking about housing last September when residents asked me to step up and run again. And it's been a real issue, especially around the infill, because what we're seeing is not affordable housing when the rents start at $1,700, $2,100, and $2,300 a month. So, it is very challenging. And James did mention, as you walk around the wards, you do see a lot of housing that is boarded up, and that doesn't give a feeling of safety for everyone. I think we need to break, the red tape that exists at City Hall to allow housing to accelerate has to be addressed. And we really have to address the zoning bylaw. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Caroline. Up next, we'll have Justin Thomas. Justin?
Hello. So I'm going to I have a different perspective. So this is where the province comes into play, because housing and dealing with the homelessness is ultimately a provincial and federal government responsibility. We can be partners, and I will give you an example. Leduc shut down their homeless shelter and sent 100 homeless people to our way for us to take care. And when we take over the responsibility from the federal government and provincial government, our property tax, our budget is going up. And that means our property taxes keep going up, right? Ultimately, the working class people who are struggling to pay their bills going to be struggling more. The seniors that are on fixed income cried in front of me, in front of a stranger, saying that if the property tax keep going up, I won't be able to stay in my home. So we need to be compassionate. We need to be compassionate to the homeless. But at the end of the day, we need to understand the fact that not everybody wants to be helped. Some wants to live a lifestyle they chose. So we can be compassionate, but the question we need to ask whether how long are we going to support someone's lifestyle that they chose? We have to be realistic. Otherwise, the property tax can force us out of our homes.
Thank you, Justin. Abdul Hakim Dalal.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Well, thank you very much. Like I said earlier, Edmontonians spend 30 or 40% of their income on rent. As your city council Ward Métis, I will champion for housing policies that keep our community affordable, inclusive for everyone. I will work for all government, all level of government, nonprofits, developer. I will advocate for zoning policies that encourage diverse housing types, such as duplex, townhouse, and secondary, so families, seniors, and young professionals can have all that choice. To protect the rentals, I'll push strong rental control measurement. My goal is to ensure no families in Ward Métis faces housing insecurity, so our neighborhood remain stable, affordable, and welcome for all. And when it comes to dealing with homelessness and addiction, this is beyond the city of Edmonton. We need some help from the government of Alberta. Last week, I was knocking doors. I met this lady at Capilano. She waited for the paramedic for 20 minutes because they were dealing with overdose at the mall. We need some help. This issue, I've been here 17 years. I remember when I was working at the Greyhound. They tell us, oh, the city, oh, there's no homeless issue. Look who we are right now. They're pushing all the homeless people from Roger Place. Now they're coming to our neighborhood. It's time for change. We need some change. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul Hakim. And last, Ashley Salvador on this question.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, everyone deserves a safe place to call home. It is unacceptable that there are 5,000 people who currently do not have one and who are currently living rough on our streets. There are 46,000 households in core housing need right now in our city. In a country and province with this much wealth, it is an absolute failure of all levels of government that this is happening on our streets. And quite frankly, people who are sleeping under tarps, living in our parks, losing their limbs every winter, and dying is not a lifestyle choice. There are 381 people who died on our streets in 2024 due to inadequate housing and homelessness. In 2023, that number was 421 people. We need continued investment in known solutions, affordable housing, supportive housing, bridge housing, transitional housing, investment across the entire spectrum. And absolutely, we need to be helping folks who are on those margins, making sure that there is adequate housing supply in order to moderate costs. But the market alone will never solve the affordable housing crisis, which is why we need investment. And that's exactly what we've been doing over the last 4 years. We've made a record investment into affordable housing, $200 million, and that needs to continue. We need other orders of government to be stepping up and doing the same. And we need councillors who are willing to stand up and fight for all Edmontonians. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. James Goss, you're going to answer this next one first, and it is somewhat related. How do you propose to deal with, or how have you dealt with, concerns regarding the administration of supportive housing units in Ward Métis? What role do you see Ward Métis playing in the broader city approach to these issues? And of course, this deals with supportive housing in many neighborhoods that sometimes the neighbors don't always want it. So how would you deal with that?
So as I mentioned before, I'm actually on the 118th Avenue, and we deal with the spillover, I would say, in these types of properties pretty constantly. I feel that the people that the city has entrusted to look over these properties are basically asleep at the wheel in a lot of cases, or at the very least, they are completely overwhelmed to the point where they cannot provide an actual functional service. And everyone in the surrounding community pays for it. If you have anything in your yard, it grows legs and walks away. If you leave your door open, people will walk in and invite themselves into your home. I've had it happen numerous times, and it makes the whole area feel unsafe. I want to be compassionate and I want to be understanding to people, but not at the consequence and at the detriment to our entire community. if we put the empathy of these people over the safety of everyone else, we will not be able to afford them anything. Thank you.
Up next on this one is Caroline Matthews. Caroline?
What has happened with Morningstar and creating collateral damage to the community is unacceptable. And we can't allow this to continue with other supportive housing that is being built in the community. We really must have city councilors who have the ability and the maturity to build relationships with the other levels of government to ensure that we have the proper wraparound services that are required. So, you know, I have met with the people running the Beverly Hotel. It's a new supportive housing unit that's opened in the community. I have spoken to residents in Highlands who are very concerned about the supportive housing that's going to be coming in their community. And, you know, I have spoken to the manager of Boyle Street and sat down, and I've been very clear with him that safe injection sites in our family communities that affect the seniors is not acceptable. So we have to have someone who's brave enough to have these conversations and work with the different levels of government, because anyone who's been an elected politician, safety should always be primary concern for the residents.
Thank you, Caroline. Up next on this, we'll ask Ashley Salvador to speak.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, we know from the previous question, supportive housing is a critical part of ending homelessness. At the same time, we know that it needs to be managed correctly and operating within its mandate. Now, we'll talk about Morningstar. Of course, a lot of folks here are familiar with what has happened. You know, during my term on council, I was hearing a lot of concerns raised by community about what was happening at Morningstar. Homeward Trust owns our supportive housing buildings and contracts operators. So when I started hearing those concerns, I reached out to Homeward Trust to say, hey, what's going on here? It seems like there's some concerns that are not present at other supportive housing buildings. They subsequently reached out to Boyle Street, the operator of the supportive housing, and corrected what was happening. They were going beyond their mandate. Now, subsequent to that, I also reached out to all the community members who had contacted me to transparently communicate what had happened and what steps were being taken. I also gathered and convened a group of community leaders, community league leaders who are represented by SECLA. We had a meeting, invited Homeward Trust, Boyle Street, as well as city staff to be able to talk through how we can ensure there's clear lines of communication between our communities and any sort of supportive housing operators so they can successfully integrate into our communities. Thank you.
Up next, we'll have Justin Thomas speak to this, please.
Accountability. That's what we are missing. So last year, crime was through the roof in Capilano area. So a bunch of people from the community organized a petition for more police. We organized a protest, and with the help of the community, we organized a town hall. What we heard was very surprising, because essentially these supportive housing, again, we can be compassionate, but that doesn't mean allowing people to do whatever they please. So these supportive housing essentially were operating like safe injection sites. Guests were coming in, staying for 3 nights, and they started providing services to walk-ins. That's out of their mandate. If supportive housing wants to operate in the community, this is what I suggest. Every 3 months, they should have a town hall or some sort of community meeting with the community to see how things are going in the community. So there is some sort of communication rather than emails, because emails usually don't work. People are staying behind a computer, so it doesn't work. So let's talk to people. Let's have meetings with the people, maybe every 4 months, maybe every 6 months, so we can hold the organization accountable if things go wrong.
Thank you, Justin. Up next is Abdul Hakim Dalal.
Well, I hear a lot from a Capilano neighborhood that SUPTA housing are creating crime, needles, they're finding needles in the park. Kids don't want to go to a park anymore. Communities are getting together and picking up needles. So I think we need more support from the provincial government to deal with all these mental issues. And you can't just put one issue, another issue neighborhood and say, hey, this is your problem now. That's not how it works. Thank you.
And Norm Parody, last to speak on this issue.
I can't say too much more than anybody else has said here, except that it goes back to the last question where we have to involve the federal and provincial governments more in this so that we can get the funding for the support groups that we need to help these supportive housing units, and also to help the people in the communities that have to put up with these housing units. We need to have a person you can speak to, not a machine, and so that you can have your concerns addressed right away if something happens in these housing units.
Thank you, Norm. All right, the next question is a 60-second question. Everybody will have 60 seconds to respond, and we're going to start with Caroline Matthews on this. Caroline, how will you address our city's budget challenges, and how will you balance that with advocating for the needs of Ward Métis and the impact of those decisions on its residents? 60 seconds.
So this is where I'm really proud to be part of the Better Edmonton team, because we actually have a plan. We have a plan to immediately review the budget line by line, find out where the major spending is, and make, the necessary decisions to ensure that the residents aren't continually impacted by the high property taxes that we've seen for the last 3 years, and potentially being discussed for another increase in October. And this is where we have to do zero-based budgeting. So every year, this means starting from zero and seeing again what the needs are, not just sort of looking at a department and saying, well, we spent this many million, let's just add 2% to that for inflation. So thoughtful spending. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Up next is Abdul Hakim Dalal. Abdul Hakim.
Oh, that's easy. The city has a spending problem. So we need to stop any future project and focus on what we have. I'm disappointed that the same people who built the LRT that went over the budget are getting the same LRT for Stony Plain. So the city has a spending problem. We need to freeze future projects and focus on what we have. I'm not spending $100 million on bikes. No, we're not doing a bike lines. Let's focus on the roads. Let's build a better roads. Let's focus on better snow removal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abdul Hakim. Justin Thomas, you are next.
So how many of you know how much money we paid last year to service our debt? Any wild guess? Just over 400 million. So our debt is approaching 5 billion. So again, the city of Edmonton need to come back to providing core services, and we need to give provincial responsibilities to the provincial government, the federal responsibilities to the federal government. And another issue, we are spending a lot of money on net zero. Blatchford, we spent $231 million. We built 200 homes so far, and that means price tag of almost $1 million for a house. We are spending, the city plan calls for climate resilient buildings. A fire hall in Windermere cost us $16 million because of ideology. Same fire hall, same square feet was built by Leduc for $5 million, $5.4 million. So you want to find savings, look at the numbers.
Thank you. Norm Parody.
I think the first thing the city has to do is stop the LRT expansion, slow down with that, quit making bike lanes in every neighborhood that don't need to be there. And then basically, we need to check with every department and really do some number crunching and see if there's any savings to be had. And I'm sure there's plenty of savings to be had. We all know government, every level of government spends foolishly. So I'm sure we could find a lot of savings that way.
Thank you, Norm. Up next, Ashley Salvador.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe rather than speaking about some specific capital projects that I would consider looking at, I'm going to talk about the biggest structural budget issue that the city of Edmonton has, and that is our sprawling growth patterns. Edmonton has spread itself far too thin. Over the last few decades, we have stretched our infrastructure and our city services well beyond our limits, and that means that our communities, core communities, mature neighborhoods are subsidizing growth at the fringes. That means we're seeing less value for our tax dollars. So that's why I've been pushing for tighter controls over when and how we continue to grow outward. We need to be more responsible with the way we grow. I've been pushing for accelerated development near mass transit centers so we can make good on those large investments like our LRT and projects like exhibition lands. I do want to speak about, in 5 seconds, I don't have time. I'll come back to it in another round.
Thank you, Ashley. And James Goss, finally.
So as I touched on earlier, when we live in a city where people see their taxes go up year after year, it's a bit of a slap in the face when the city prioritizes political pet projects over the affordability of all of its residents. Projects like Net Zero, Vision Zero, and then also the infill and the expansion of the bike lanes need to have an immediate pause put on them. It's unfair to the residents who, again, see their taxes go up year after year and cannot afford to bear the burden of the cities choosing to fund the projects who only benefit a very small minority of people. Thank you.
Thank you, James. This next question will be, you'll each have 90 seconds to answer. We're going to start with Caroline Thomas. Based on past revitalization efforts, what have we learned about what works and what doesn't? Sorry, what did I say? Sorry, Caroline, yeah. It's Justin Thomas. Sorry about that. I don't know how you get the two of you mixed up. That would be impossible. It's a handsome group up here. Sorry about that. Justin, it will be you first. Here we go. Based on past revitalization efforts, what have we learned about what works and what doesn't? How would you apply these lessons to ensure future neighborhood revitalization projects are successful and benefit long-term residents? I found my glasses, by the way, so that's good.
So I live in Oddball. And if you live there or you've been there, you know what not to do. Like the city is giving you examples on what not to do. There is plenty of examples. You have traffic bottlenecks that two buses cannot pass each other, right? I was making a video there. It's there. And then street parking is gone. And then there is a drain. You could literally park 2 cars inside that drain. So a lot of mistakes were made. A sidewalk, now it's 10 feet wide, and seniors now have to clean the snow. So we have learned a lot of lessons from the way the city operates their business. So we need to ask the people, what do they want to see in their neighborhood? When it comes to consultation, what is happening is that the planners come in and then they tell you what is going to happen. So it's all falls back to community consultation. Just talk to people. Some of the people been living there for 60 years and people are not driving into each other. Like we don't need 10 feet sidewalk. We are respectful in our neighborhood. We don't need traffic bottlenecks. 90th Avenue, Ortville Road used to be wider for 2 cars to get into 90th Avenue. Because of the neighborhood renewal, it's gone now.
Thank you, Justin. Up next on that is Ashley Salvador.
Yeah, thank you. I think we've learned a lot about the way that the city does renewal, not just over the last few years, but over the last 10 to 15 years. We've learned that like for like replacement of the infrastructure that was initially there 50, 60 years ago is not going to future-proof our neighborhoods. When we're going in and we're spending tens of millions of dollars to replace all of those public assets, we need to make sure that we're building in accessibility improvements. We need to make sure that we're building in climate resilience and things like flood mitigation. We need to make sure that we're adding things like boulevard trees into communities that don't have them already in order to improve our communities for generations to come. I also think about the ongoing operational costs of our neighborhoods. It's not just the capital expenditure to build them that matters, it's how much does it cost to actually maintain and plow and care for the horticultural beds and parks that are being added to our communities. We need to take an all-encompassing and holistic look at how we're building our communities. And just on that note of capital versus operational dollars that I didn't get in my last answer, I do want to just highlight over our term, $60 million annually we've managed to reduce from our budget, and $120 million has been reallocated to core city services. Things like snow clearing, our transit system, our libraries, our rec centers, all those things we depend on every single day.
Thank you, Ashley. Up next is James Goss.
So I actually live in a quadplex that was built in the 1960s, early 1970s, and it's in a very mature neighborhood. And so when those buildings were built, they were built with care, planning, and forward thinking in mind. The facility that I live in has enough adequate parking for all the private residents. It has enough room for private garbage disposal. And if we take a look at the past and we can properly see what did and did not work, we can learn from those mistakes. We can learn and make communities that function for everyone and not just for profits and shareholders for the developers. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Norm Parody, you're next on this one.
Yeah, I think the very first thing we need to do for revitalization is consult with communities that we want to do the revitalization in. Secondly, we need to make sure there's proper road work and transit for those communities, and make sure that there's not the wrong kind of infill, which comes back to talking with the communities that we're dealing with.
Thank you, Norm. Caroline Matthews.
When you walk around the ward as much as I have, and you see some of the initiatives that have been placed on residents, some of the street labs, that residents are complaining about, and being able to move around their neighborhoods. Now on 54th Street and on 50th Street, instead of ones that are removable, they've actually, I call it the wave, it's cement that's actually been poured onto the road. And while I was there, residents were telling me how children were using it as a skate park. And this is on a bus route. Now, if you drive there and you see how much they've narrowed the road, it's not going to be possible to clear snow adequately there for the buses to get through in the winter. And then on accessibility, the seniors who live up and around these street labs, as they call them, are complaining to me as they're trying to cross the street, because they cross the intersections. They have to walk further into the road to navigate the snow that's not being cleared. So we have to be thoughtful about what kind of taxpayer money we're putting in to these renewals in the communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Abdul Hakim.
It's easy. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So that's easy. The city spend most of their meetings in private. They don't engage with the community, and they wonder why things don't work out. This is what the city needs. Engage with the people, address the issues behind doors, address the issues facing our community daily. That's how you make a change.
Abdul Hakim, you'll be up first in this next question. Again, we'll have 90 seconds. Many of you have touched on this, but it's a pretty broad encompassing question here. What is your vision for mature neighborhoods in Ward Métis? And how does infill and the updated zoning bylaw fit into that? 90 seconds is a big subject for sure. Abdul Hakim.
So I've been here from many of you guys that infill is changing our neighborhoods in a way that does not always feel fair or respectful. We need houses, yes, but we need to be done right. That means involving the resident in the decision making and make sure the houses actually serve the family, not just the investors. I will fight for infill policies that put people first, not profit or money. Thank you.
Up next will be Norm Parody. Norm.
We need to make our neighborhoods safe for everybody and so that they're proud of where they live. Infill needs to be done properly where you don't have multiplexes and that look ugly, first of all, in the community. And we need to make sure that basically that it's a good neighborhood, no crime. We need to deal with the homeless in those neighborhoods. And yeah.
Thank you, Norm. Up next, James Goss on this subject.
So my vision for Ward Métis is, as Norm was saying, bringing a return to safety to our streets. The chaos that has gripped our streets has had far too long of an opportunity to be solved by the current city administration. I also believe that we need to see an extreme expanse of affordable housing in Ward Métis, and what that looks like is a focusing on single-family homes and a revitalization of the boarded-up apartment buildings that I was talking about earlier. On top of that, we need to return a sense of pride in our community. I graduated from East Glen in 2017, and one of the things that always broke my heart about that is whenever I mention that, people always say Grease Glen. And it always hurt to know that as soon as you mention that you're from 118th Ave or from the north side, people are immediately going to judge that part of area just because of the reputation. We need to remove that. And I think if we all work together and we focus on the real issues and we don't get distracted by the political pet projects or the division, we can make a community we're all proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Up next on this is Ashley Salvador.
Yeah, thank you. So, my vision for mature neighborhoods, and I've seen this reflected in the constituents that I serve: safe, healthy, vibrant, and connected communities where people have access to good housing options, good transportation choices that meet a variety of needs and reflect the diversity of our communities. People want good access to parks, to recreation, to city services. They want good access to commercial and retail opportunities where they can go and connect with their neighbors. They want to ensure that they can live relatively close to those kinds of amenities. And the question was around, how's the new zoning bylaw play into this? Well, zoning is a really important tool for helping achieve that kind of vision. We've gone through a really big modernization process where the new zoning bylaw has been revamped. It was a 50-year-old bylaw. It needed to be adapted, needed to change. And we just had the one-year review on that, a very important point to check in with community and say, hey, what's working and what's not? And I've heard very loud and clear that mid-block A-plexes are not working. And that's why I voted to reduce A-plexes back down, try to moderate that and find a good middle ground for our communities. And zoning, of course, touches well beyond residential uses. It touches industrial, it touches our park spaces that we desperately need to protect and preserve. So zoning is a fascinating tool. It can be adapted, it is adjusted, and it evolves with our communities. Thank you.
Up next, Caroline Matthews.
So I talk about this every day, and anyone who knows me knows I can talk very well on this subject, but I don't like being timed. So here we go. The zoning bylaw is not a housing bylaw. There's only one small portion that needs to be amended, and that's section 2.10. We must amend the small residential portion of the zoning bylaw. Better Edmonton has a plan to amend the small residential portion within 40 days. Why would we want to repeal the controls on the river valley and agricultural zones? Say no to blanket repeal and yes to parking requirements, setbacks, height restrictions, lot sizes, and effective engagement with our residents for protections of our mature communities. Our mature communities are unique. They have their own characteristics and historic value. I have spoken to so many residents that have been deeply affected. Their house prices has been reduced. They've been reduced to just being lot value. We are not listening to the residents. We must engage and we must make amendments immediately. But repealing is a very irresponsible political promise that's being made that's not going to be able to be achieved. So we need to bring maturity and balance. This is a very important election.
Thank you, Caroline. And finally, Justin Thomas.
My vision for a mature neighborhood start with repealing the blanket rezoning bylaw. We had skinnies, we had duplexes, we had sixplexes before this bylaw came into play. And there were enough parking. Not a lot of communities complained. Things worked, but not worked in the way the developers and many councillors, donors wanted. 2, I want to improve safety. How can we improve safety in mature neighborhood? Well, we have to enforce all the laws in the book. On one hand, you cannot scream about defunding the police and then go repeal the loitering section from the public safety bylaw that made our transit or ETS properties pretty much a drug den. And people were getting hurt. Violent crimes went up 300%. And that didn't stop there. The same people then decided they're going to go beyond their mandate and they're going to try for something federal. They tried to decriminalize all the drugs in Edmonton and send a request to Health Canada in 2023. If you have seen the issues in 2024, these are the reasons. We need to do better and we need better counsel representing us.
Thank you. All right, so thank you. This next question, once again, will be 90 seconds. Norm Parody, you're going to get first crack at this. What is your position on the rights of an autonomous citizen being able to use illicit substances intersecting with the rights of other citizens to enjoy their own property or feel safe using public spaces such as transit, libraries, walkways, or parks? Is everybody clear on that? Your position on the rights of autonomous citizens to use illicit substances intersecting with the rights of other citizens to safely enjoy their own property or feel safe in public spaces such as transit, libraries, walkways, or parks. Norm Parody, you get first crack.
Well, I'll make this real simple. The rights of the individuals should not supersede the rights of the many. This is what democracy is built on. If you have somebody that is using illegal substances, they should be taken off the street right now. And if not arrested, at least put in a program somewhere where they can be detoxed and maybe get off that substance. That's it.
Thank you, Norm. Abdul Hakim Dalal.
Well, we know weed is legal, so whatever you do in your own private home doesn't do with me, but in public, I'm not gonna support that. So any drug use in public, I mean, come on, we got kids, I'm a father, I got 21-year-old, 17-year-old daughter, and 13-year-old. I don't want my kids seeing drugs in public. Thank you.
Up next, Ashley Salvador.
Yeah, so I think I heard the question correctly, but citizens don't have a right to use illicit substances. And I'll speak about what I've heard from community and what I've seen in our community. There has been a lot of open drug use in a lot of our public spaces, and that is deeply concerning. There's an opioid crisis right now. And I'll speak specifically about transit and transit safety, because that's oftentimes where I hear this concern come up. We recently passed something called the Public Spaces Bylaw. And what that bylaw does is it makes it incredibly clear around what behaviors are acceptable and are not acceptable in all of our public spaces. It also gives peace officers, transit peace officers, the ability to intervene if there are inappropriate behaviors happening in those transit spaces, including things like open drug use. Um, you know, I think about the number of peace officers that we've added to our transit system over the term, a 73% increase. But that's still not at the level that is required. We need 175 peace officers to reach that full complement to be able to have system-wide coverage. So that's deeply important to me and something I want to continue pushing on this term. We've also started to increase our outreach workers, folks who are struggling with mental health, addiction, are unhoused in our communities. Being able to take them off of transit and our public spaces and get them connected with social supports and services is also deeply important. And of course, wrapping back, the need for provincial and federal involvement because these issues expand well beyond municipal.
And up next is Justin Thomas.
So back in the days when we were cavemen, people were allowed to do things that they wanted. But then societies formed, we were expected to behave in a certain way. And that's how society works. Everybody do their best to make things work. So with the drug use, the problem, it is a criminal offense to possess drugs and use it under the Controlled Drugs and Substance Act. It is very clear. We don't need any municipal bylaw for that. What we need is a council who has the desire to enforce the law instead of jumping in the way of police and criticizing them for doing their job. So we need to let the police enforce all the law. You cannot pick and choose. And the second issue is that if we are encouraging drug use, what's next the council is going to do? Build an extra lane for drunk drivers? Alcoholics, they are also addicts, but we don't treat them. We don't show these kind of compassion to them. We hold them accountable, because holding them accountable, we can treat them. We can do better for them, right? It falls back to accountability. So individual liberty, when it interferes with other person's liberty, that's where we draw the line. Because people are not simply using drugs, they're putting other people's safety at risk. That's the biggest issue we are experiencing.
Thank you, Justin. James Goss.
See, I actually somewhat agree with Ashley Salvador, surprisingly. People have no right to do hard drugs in public, and they should be held within the fullest extent of the law, or accountable within the fullest extent of the law. As someone who has had to deal with picking up needles, crack pipes, meth stems every day for the past 5 years in every job I've worked, whether it's legal work, property management, maintenance, you can't get away from it if you're living in certain areas of Edmonton, and it is absolutely unacceptable. The effect that it has on our communities where people don't feel safe, they don't feel comfortable to utilize the resources that their taxpayer dollars pay for, it's completely unacceptable. And there is no right to do hard drugs in public. And if I was a city councillor, one of the first motions I'd be pressing for is a ban on the sale of hard drug paraphernalia in our corner stores. Some of these stores are at the direct end of our streets, bordering schools, bordering daycares, and it's completely unacceptable that there are people out there profiting off the suffering of our community. Thank you.
And finally on this question, Caroline Matthews.
Safe consumption sites and open drug use in our communities is totally unacceptable, especially around our skate parks, our Dairy Queens, and for residents to be continually finding needles, having to deal with the paraphernalia that's being left behind is unacceptable. So I don't know how many of you know that I was a police officer. And when I was selected to work the specialized unit where my partner was either a social worker or a psychiatric nurse. So I have the experience of working well with the cross agencies and helping to give mental health supports in the community. I believe that we need to continue to have these programs. I was, and also Abdul Hakim, we were the only two that went to the police candidates meeting and spoke to the police officers that were there. I had an opportunity to speak to our new chief, share, the program that I worked in Vancouver and some of the benefits that could be to augment the program that we have here in Edmonton, but we have to respect the professional training that our police officers have, and we cannot continually vote against them on council and give that message that we are not respecting them.
Thank you, Caroline. This next question is a 90-second question. Ashley Salvador, you'll be first up. The 2025 EPS budget is $465 million, which is the largest single expenditure by the city. The new funding formula has seen the EPS getting large increases since the new funding formula was approved, growing from $350 million in 2020 to $465. How will you improve community safety considering the tax implications as well? Ashley Salvador.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Absolutely. The police budget has increased year over year over the 4-year term. At this point, we do have one of the highest funded police services in Canada, and it is our largest line item within the city's budget. And I think we all know how critically important policing is when we're thinking about that community safety ecosystem. And it's an ecosystem for a reason, right? There's some work that isn't necessarily policing work that police are being asked to do. They're being stretched thin. When we think about all the challenges we talked about earlier related to social disorder within our communities, oftentimes they're being asked to respond to those calls, which is taking time away from doing actual policing work. And that's a real challenge we're seeing right now. So I always say we need a multi-pronged approach. We, of course, need responsive and reactive teams. We need the right folks to be there when we need them, but we also need to be looking upstream. We need to be looking at preventative and proactive approaches to stop things from ever escalating to the point where we're needing police. I think about the importance of poverty reduction, youth programming, early intervention, social supports, and of course, safe and stable housing. We know that investing in prevention is not just the right thing to do, but actually saves money. It's the more affordable thing to do. It saves money on our healthcare system, our justice system, our emergency responders as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Up next, Justin Thomas. Sorry again, Justin. I'm getting you mixed up.
I'm even different color. So, 2 a.m, who do you call when you are in doubt? Almost always it's 911, and they send police to deal with their issue because not a lot of social agencies are operating at that time, right? As a police officer, I really don't want to go into a dark basement. Just like you, I'm also scared, right? So in 2021, talking about the budget, 2021, EPS did an audit to see how much money all levels of government spent in the greater Edmonton region for the social well-being. It's close to $7 billion, and the audit found that almost 20% of that money, the benefit, cannot be tracked. We're talking about over $1 billion. So we need a stronger police force or police service to do policing. Police is being everything to everybody. We are dealing with the homeless population. We are dealing with the people passed out on the streets. And there are many other agencies that's getting paid. That is their mandate. So a lot of these organizations, if they do their job well and take over some of the responsibilities, police can do policing better, and they can focus on actually dealing with the crime, which is increasing in this day and age. So we need to let social agencies deal with the social disorder.
Up next is James Goss.
I actually do agree with the $465 million police budget. However, we need to ensure that there is proper audit and accountability on how the money is being spent. With that being said, the police are one of our most important resources in the city, and we need to make sure that we work with them as a team and prove and show a united front against crime and disorder in our city. We cannot have a massive rift between our city council and our police department, or we can't expect the city to function properly. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Abdul Hakim Dalel.
That's the easy solution. I'm gonna do what my hometown of Ottawa Police did. They were dealing with crime, guns in 2016. Ottawa Police Service created a different way to deal with crime. Number one, they hire Aboriginal people, people of color, speak the language, understand the culture. They created a community police response. We cannot tell the EPS what to do. We just write a check to the EPS, but we can force them to hire people of color, Aboriginal. Second thing, as your city councilor, will make sure our neighborhood is safe through proactive and community focus. I will work with the law enforcement, the community, and community outreach. Imagine what we can do when you have your city councilor, the community, the police, and the community reach out. We can do a lot. We can reduce crime. We can build a better community that reflects all of us. And just Justin over there, locking people up is not a solution. I went to prison in February. Guess there were 76 of us in 3 Alpha, and there was only 5 of us who were black. The rest were young men, a lot of young men with mental issue. I don't think Justin suggesting that locking people up is not the solution. Let's help them.
Abdul
There's a lot of
Hakim,
young
I'll ask
kids.
you not to refer to other candidates.
No, there's a
okay?
lot of young kids
Thank you.
who are dealing with mental health. They're walking in a circle, they're talking to themselves. Locking people up is not the solution. We need help from provincial government to deal with the crisis that's going on in our community. We have homelessness, we have addiction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abdul Hakim. Caroline Matthews.
So again, I'm part of a team that has a plan, and we have a plan to bring back community policing. We need a greater presence of our police out of their cars. You know, when I go to the community meetings, what do I hear from residents? They want to see more beat police officers. They want to have the community police stations back opened again. You know, this is what we have to do, is we have to listen to what the residents want so that they can feel safe in their communities again. I went out April 25th with the beat cops on 118th Avenue. It was a great experience. I got to go into establishments that I wouldn't go into as a normal resident. We have to have, you know, your leaders who are prepared to work with people who have opposing views, to listen, to engage. This is how we're going to turn the corner on our safety in our community, because this was not an issue when I ran in 2021. This is very much an issue today. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. And Norm Parady.
I agree with Caroline about having the community stations. I've lived in Alberta Avenue since 1974 in the home that my parents used to own. I own it now. When community policing first came to Alberta Avenue, when it started getting rough, it made a big difference. And there was only 2 or 3 beat cops that worked out of there. And to me, that was money well spent. The crime rate went down in the neighborhood for a long time. And then they eventually took that community policing out of there, and now crime's gone back up again. I also believe that we need a much better relationship with our police force, EPS, and try and work through some of the issues with them. I don't think our council right now has a very good relationship with the police. So that is the major thing we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. All right, this next one will be another 90 seconds. Justin Thomas, you'll have the first go. What is your vision for the future of the River Valley? What principles would guide your decisions on new developments and land use within this natural area? What kind of economic change or development would you support or encourage, if any?
I didn't go into the river valley until I got myself a dog. So that's the kind of person I am. But then I realized it's beautiful. And 2 years ago, I went on a bicycle course in the trails in the river valley. And then I realized there is an extensive bicycle trails there, and it's really hard and you might fall. So I like the river valley the way it is. I do not want to see a lot of development in that area because I consider it to be a treasure, and I don't want to trample with it. And that's my honest answer.
Thank you, Justin. Up next, Abdul Hakim Dalal.
Well, there's two things that came up when I talked to people. One was the smell, and the second was the public safety. And a lot of people are leaving their e-bikes there. They were not happy with that. Safety was a big issue. And that weird smell, I don't know, the lady told me that the smell continues. She called everybody. Nobody responded to her. That's the only thing I hear from the River Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul Hakim. Caroline Matthews.
I really enjoy the River Valley and its trails. Typically, I do a lot of bike riding. Haven't been doing that this year. What I did get asked about a lot in 2021, and I actually just got another email about it the other day, is to have better access to washrooms in our River Valley, especially some around the ravine areas. They, of course, would have to be safe and properly maintained. And I just had a blank. I guess we all get one. But, we need to preserve how well maintained it is. And that's just really important. It's a feature that we have for our city, and we need to keep it clean. We need to keep the homeless out of there. I mean, that is a huge issue. People who used to, pride themselves on living near a ravine in 2025 are now saying to me that it's very much a fear of having the fires in there. So we need to ensure that the riverbed, the dry branches and that are properly cleaned out at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. And James Goss.
So I actually agree with Justin Thomas. The River Valley is a treasure. It's the largest continuous natural land park in Canada, if I'm not mistaken. And we need to treat it with the care and love that it deserves. I was actually working as a property manager for the McDonald Estates apartment building when there was the large fire in the River Valley, I believe it was last year or the year prior, bit of a blur. But I was actually out there with a hose, sprinkling over the fence, attempting to get the fire out. So I am keenly aware of the threats and the risks that it poses to the area, while simultaneously being an absolutely beautiful treasure that we have to value. We need to see the crime and the dysfunction be cleared out of there. I would love to see a more persistent presence of peace and police officers doing beat patrols through the River Valley. And then also just making sure that the infrastructure that's there is being properly maintained, proper forest management, and also making sure the funiculator is either working or at the very least removed so it's not costing the city more money. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Norm Parody, you're next.
All I can say is I think we're all in agreement that we have to keep the River Valley the way it is. Maybe some more police presence in there and maintained infrastructure there. And that's it, yeah.
Thank you, Norm. And finally on this question, Ashley Salvador.
Yeah, I think I would agree with all my colleagues up here. The River Valley is an absolute gem, and it's something that needs to be preserved and protected. I live in Ward Métis, and one of the best things about Ward Métis is it has the river running right through the center of it, through the heart of our communities. And largest urban parkland in all of North America. So it does need to be protected, preserved, but at the same time, there needs to be equitable access, right? So that folks can actually go and enjoy it and use it for its leisure purposes, its health benefits, and be able to connect with nature. The River Valley has ecological, social, and cultural value, and it needs to be here for generations to come. I think the question was around, vision for the future of the River Valley. What kind of development would you support? What would you not support? And one of the examples I'll use of inappropriate development of our River Valley that I voted against and rejected was industrial development in Fulton Creek Ravine. not okay. There's huge value in Fulton Creek, and I was really pleased that council said no to that. I think there is absolutely room for improving some of our trails system. That's one thing that I advanced this term as a councillor, was the groundwork for a brand new trails strategy, just to formalize that trail network and make sure that it's getting the attention it deserves. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, this next question is something that a lot of you have touched on in other questions. What are your views and record on the Edmonton Bike Plan as part of an active transportation network, and do you support its continued funding and implementation? We'll start with Abdul Hakim Dalal.
Sure, what was the other part of the question? First of all, I don't support any bike lane. We're broke, so we don't have $100 million. What was the other part of it?
That's pretty much it. Do you support the active transportation network?
No, thank you. We got better things to do. Thank you.
Okay, Abdul Hakim. Caroline Matthews.
Bike lanes are nice to have, but when we can financially afford it. And this is what's been the big complaint at the doors and in the communities. So the $100 million that was approved is actually going to be closer to that $200 million by the time the interest is paid on that. It's a loan. It's a loan. It's not just $100 million. People need to understand, the full costs of that. And then this ward in particular in Delton, for residents to have bike lanes imposed on them when they simply don't want them, they gather the names, they petition, they go to the province. Now we're hearing the same story as happening in Holyrood. Residents are concerned. It's about the lack of engagement. To tell residents that you've engaged on something that was back in 2019, and then all of a sudden they receive notices and people don't understand, what's happening, how come it's being imposed. And on 96th Street, with the protected bike lanes that are going down there, on very quiet streets, by the way, they're going to lose their disabled parking. So, City Council works for the residents, not the other way around. That's what we have to get back to.
Thank you. James Goss.
Yeah, as I said earlier, it'd be a complete immediate pause on that type of spending. It's a slap in the face to every citizen that sees their taxes go up year after year when the city chooses to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on political pet projects. That money could be spent better in numerous ways, whether it's housing, tackling the crime on the streets, making more job opportunities in the community. It's endless, the opportunities that money could have provided our community, but instead we have something to complain about. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Justin Thomas.
Thank you. So I'm going to give two answers to you. Personally, I do not support bike lanes. Two, community consultation. If a neighborhood collectively say that they need bike lanes in their neighborhood, I would be like, all right, because it's a community consultation. The community wants it, I'll support it. I personally don't support it, but I would support it. And the reason I'm saying is that both Delton and the new bike line that coming on 79, Delton, there was no community consultation, Delton and Alberta Avenue. The people went out of their way to have a petition asking the city to not do it. I'll help them with it. And then the city said, too bad, so sad, we planned it. They said it's $100 million, but that's not the number. The reason I'm saying is that the new neighborhood renewal, they're twisting the words and calling it what they call multi-use pathways. So that's essentially a bike lane. So there's that money going to that particular infrastructure from the neighborhood renewal, which ultimately we will pay. So why is the city afraid to do consultation? What are they worried about? Like ultimately, if community doesn't want something, why are we forcing things on people? Like I said again, I speak to people for a living. Let's chat with people and see what they want.
Norm Parody.
So 96th Street that Caroline was talking about is a block away from my place. A couple of years ago, they came in our neighborhood, tore up all the streets and all the sidewalks, redid everything, and made it really nice. Now, on 97th Street, they have a service lane that they turned into what is a bike lane. 96th Street, which is right next door, they made it one way, told all the residents they can only park on one side of the street, put speed bumps in there, and made the rest of it a bike lane. So now bikers get a nice paved street to ride on, and the residents that live there have no say in anything. So I'm not against bike lanes where it's feasible, but I am against putting bike lanes everywhere just to say you put so many kilometers of bike lanes in the city. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Norm. And finally, on this subject, Ashley Salvador.
Yeah, thank you. I've always believed in transportation choice. People get around our city in a variety of ways, whether they're walking, biking, or taking public transit or driving. And I'm thinking about how a lot of the conversation tonight's been around safety. And traffic safety also matters. I think about the number of pedestrians and cyclists who have been injured or killed on our roadways, and they deserve safe cycling infrastructure, safe walking infrastructure, so that they can get to where they need to go. I have talked with a lot of residents here in Ward Métis, and I'll just use parents as an example, who would love to be able to send their kids to school on their own, let them bike to school, but they're feeling hesitant and scared because of a lack of safe infrastructure. So this is really about building communities that work for everyone, regardless of how they choose to get around. I think the other important piece that I often think about is, look at our transportation network as a whole. And about 2% of people bike as their main mode of transportation. And the city is spending about 2% of our transportation budget going towards active transportation. So I think that makes sense if we're trying to build a connected network for everyone. It's also interesting to note that the vast majority of the new infrastructure that's going in for active transportation is shared use pathways, not necessarily the on-street bike infrastructure that we might think of when we first say bike lanes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, this is going to be our final question before you all get a chance to wrap up. We're going to give you 2 minutes for a wrap. But once again, this question will be for 90 seconds. And Justin Thomas, you'll go first. How will you engage with the province, and how will it impact Edmontonians in Ward Métis of all backgrounds?
So, like in one of the questions I said, I would like to see province taking back the responsibility of housing and helping us a little more with safety. But the one thing we have to understand, a lot of the people in the council say that, or they're going to do this with the province, or they're gonna seize their property. The people, I tell them, you need to read the Municipal Government Act. Under the Municipal Government Act, the cities, municipalities exist at the mere pleasure of the province. So if you're going to pick a fight, you're going to definitely lose. And if you call them name on Monday and you ask them things on Friday, if I was the minister, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't help because it's very personal. So what we need to do is to have an adult relationship with the province that get things done. We need to tell the province, listen, a lot of the homeless population is coming from all over the province. You need to help us because it is not Edmonton's own problem. We are helping the province by dealing with the homelessness. And that's where you have to have a constructive dialogue, ultimately understanding that they hold a lot of power over us. 2, we need to improve safety. And for that, we need both federal government and provincial government. So consultation and respect is the best way to get things done.
Thank you, Justin. Ashley Salvador.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course we need to find opportunities to move forward together where there is common ground and where there's alignment with our provincial and federal partners. We also need people who are going to stand up for Edmontonians though, because Edmonton has not been getting its fair share. There's evidence of this across the board. I look at the inequity between Edmonton and Calgary when it comes to shelter space and shelter funding. It was only after persistent advocacy, not only from council, but from community, the wider community, the business community saying, hey, we need help, that we saw some action. We've seen massive infrastructure cuts. 2011, we were getting about $420 per person. That's now down to $150 as we've experienced rapid growth. We need funding that is going to keep pace with our growth and support our capital city. The economic engine of this province deserves more. I would also say all of the social issues that we've chatted about tonight, that demands a provincial response, it demands a federal response as well. So there does need to be very clearly articulated expectations around what we can do as a city and where our limits are, because we don't have the reins on healthcare. We don't have the reins on the justice system, and we need the province and federal government to be stepping up to help us out. The other example I often share is when the province decided that they weren't going to be paying their taxes to the city. And that had real implications for everybody's tax bills, because those costs don't just get passed down onto cities, they get passed down to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Up next, Norm Parody.
As I said earlier, I think we need to have more open dialogue with the Alberta government and the federal government. That being said, it has to be respectful. And I see no reason why City Hall can't have a better relationship with the Alberta government. All they have to do is get on a bike, go down the bike path down to the legislature, and they're right there.
Thank you, Norm. Abdul Hakim Dalal.
Oh, that's easy. Danielle Smith is a strong woman, and she's looking for, if we have a city council that are strong leadership, I'm sure she will respect us. I'm sure there's a lot of issues when it comes to overdose, the paramedics, all the stuff we need to improve. And then I was talking to, earlier I was talking to another lady. She waited for the paramedic for 20 minutes. I'm sure if Danielle Smith hears that stories that people will wait for 20 minutes for paramedic to deal with overdose, I'm sure she's willing to work with us and we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul Hakim. Caroline Matthews.
So when you put yourself forward to run for city council at the municipal level, you should be putting yourself forward to represent all of the residents that live in the ward. And that means that you should demonstrate and have maturity and balance to deal with all levels of government and not let ideology get in the way. Getting on television or doing a newspaper article and calling out the province without sitting down and arranging a meeting and having a face-to-face is not the way to represent the residents of this ward. And this is what needs to change. We need to have city councillors who understand that they are here to work for the residents, not for their own ideology, not for their own pet projects, not for what they want, but what for the residents want. And if that means that you have to build the necessary relationships, then that's your job. And that's where I think we fundamentally have fallen down with how our city is being run. So what I'm offering is that maturity and that balance. I had 2 MLAs who campaigned at the doors against me in 2021. I'm running again in 2025. I've had a sit down. I've had coffee with them. I will be able to work with them. That's how we need to move ahead.
And last, James Goss.
So I actually believe I can provide a unique perspective here. In my capacity as a citizen of the city of Edmonton, I've had the pleasure of meeting with Danielle Smith and as well as, I don't want to butcher his name, Nenshi, the leader of the NDP. And I believe as an independent and a self-funded candidate that's outside of the political circle, I have an opportunity to bridge the gap between these two groups and make it so that they can put the needs of the Edmontonians first and the political banter and distractions second. I've also had the opportunity to meet with several members of the federal government in my capacity as a citizen. Entirely just happenstance in the town. always a fun story. But I believe that they are looking for people who are young, who are dedicated, passionate, and who are looking to mend the political divide that has gripped this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to closing remarks. We're going to give each candidate 2 minutes or less. You don't have to take the whole 2 minutes if you don't want. We're going to start with Caroline Matthews. Caroline.
So thank you very much to the organizers and to the groups that have been involved, to the audience who has attended tonight, and to everyone who's joined us online. Vote for the one candidate that can deliver on the change we need, not blanket repeal of our river valley protection, agricultural zones, utility corridors, or cosmetic performative charades that fail to protect our mature communities. We need to amend infill with parking requirements, put people at the center of decision-making, aligning growth where it makes sense, and respect for our mature communities. We need to prioritize the review of the budget, neighborhood accessibility for all, and in particular, senior housing alternatives. We have not talked about the seniors here tonight, and we need to do more to help our seniors age in place in their communities. With a lifetime of leadership, I'm ready to bring professional, practical, and passionate representation to Ward Métis. Let's make our city work for all of us, with leaders who truly listen and deliver thoughtful, solid results you can count on. I'm prepared to make that change happen for Ward Métis. Vote for Caroline Matthews. I'm looking for your support October 20th. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Up next is Ashley Salvador.
Yeah, well, thank you so much to all of the organizers who took the time to put this together for all of us. It's so important that we have these kinds of forums to be able to engage with candidates and get to know them. I'm reflecting on the ground that we've covered tonight, all the topics that we've debated and shared with one another. Most of it has really evolved around community safety, which is such a fundamental and critically important part of the conversations that I'm having on the doors, that I'm hearing from residents. And I'm also thinking about some of the things we didn't cover that I would love to chat more about. I think about transit service, our buses, our LRT system, some of the work we're doing around BRT, bus rapid transit. I'm thinking about the core city services like our snow clearing, our park maintenance, our libraries, our rec centers, those real fundamentals that you expect your city to get right, that add to our quality of life. I would love to talk more about that. I'm also thinking about the 130,000 people who have moved to Edmonton in the last 3 years. People are choosing our city, and that is so exciting. It also presents some challenges, and we need to make sure that our city services are keeping up with that growth. We didn't get to talk about exhibition lands, which is a fantastic and transformative development opportunity within our core communities. We didn't talk about local or regional economy, arts and culture, and the big one that I wanted to really point out, we didn't get a chance to dig into political parties being introduced at the municipal level. That is fundamentally important to me. I am not running with a political party. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think about how the introduction of political parties threatens to really change the face of our local democracy. Being able to have voices around the council table who truly represent residents, who are not being influenced by any sort of partisan politics in the background, is critically important. And this represents a massive change. So I would encourage everyone, do your research. I think everyone here is a fairly informed voter already. Do your research this election. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. And Justin Thomas.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, sir. Good-looking guy. That's what he called himself. And thank you, everyone watching on the internet. I am a big believer of the fact that ideas should succeed based on its merit, not because it's backed by legislation. And that's what's happening with the City Hall. They lost touch with reality. There might not be a political party in the City Hall, but when it's time to vote, 8 to 10 councillors come together and vote almost always against the people. It doesn't matter whether it's infill, it doesn't matter it's about safety by trying to decriminalize drugs or by increasing property tax. I am all about community consultation. I'm not afraid to talk to people. I'm not afraid to listen if you have an opposing view. Last year, when we had crime and disorder went through the roof in Capilano area, I was not worried to stand up for my community. I will stand up for you. I have been doing a job, been going to work, trying to pay my bills, and I want to be respected. I want to be a part of the decision-making process. That's all I'm asking. And that's a reason you guys are here too. We all want to be treated as adults. We pay a lot of money. So vote for people who listen to you. Vote for people who's not afraid to stand up for what they believe is right. And sometimes that's a community voice. So make sure when you go home tonight, look up the people and their voting record and make sure you don't fall for false promises. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Norm Parody.
All right. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight and listening to all of us. I just want to say that talk is cheap, so this is going to be real short. As a lifelong resident of Edmonton, I urge you to join me in this journey to create a better Edmonton. Let's prioritize practical solutions, fiscal responsibility, and community needs. I'm committed to being a dedicated and responsive councillor. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Norm. And James Goss.
So something we didn't get to touch on this evening that I feel is a bit of a shame is the rate of unemployment in the city. And while I know the city doesn't have a direct cause or effect on such a thing, I believe the city can help in a number of ways to help alleviate such an issue. The rate of unemployment for people at the age of 16 to 24 is over 20%, if I'm not mistaken. That means 1 in 5 kids, your grandkids, your kids, cannot find a job and they are actively looking. Myself, when I was applying for work, I had to apply to over 900 positions, and I have a very extensive work history, and I was very fortunate to get a job where I make $15 an hour. The work system in the city of Edmonton is completely broken. The city needs to take an immediate steps to help alleviate and set children and young workers up for a future where they can be successful. With that, I believe such a program, such as the Summer Temporary Employment Program, which was an Alberta program in the past, should be brought back at a municipal level, as well as the Summer Youth Job Placement Program that the province announced. I believe that the city has the funding to put an extra 500 jobs into that program specifically for young people in the city of Edmonton so they can start building a future, so they can start building a family, so they can become interested in the value of this city. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And we're going to wrap up with Abdul Hakim Dalal, who tells me that his mother and his sister are watching from Ottawa. So shout out to them.
Well, first I do want to apologize. I had to use the washroom. I had to work today. I had to work 7 to 5, and I work in Redwater. It's a long drive, so I've been drinking water and coffee. And I want to say thank you for having me. And this is why I got into politics, engage with the community. And I want to say hi to my mom and my sister Pamela. I'm coming home for Christmas. Save me some plates. Like I was saying earlier, this election is very important to us. We are $1.5 billion in debt. We have housing crisis. We have homelessness, addiction. Ward Métis needs a leader who listens, who acts, and delivers. My name is Abdul Hakim Dalal. Together, we can make Ward Métis safer, stronger. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say. Hi, Mom.
Thank you, Abdul Hakim. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for attending tonight and being respectful to our candidates tonight. It's very difficult, obviously, to get up here. They don't know what these questions are going to be. Before tonight, we didn't give them any questions ahead of time. They had to react to what they know and give us their background. So we appreciate all the candidates for what they've done tonight and appearing here and being very respectful of each other. Thank you for being very respectful of the whole process here. And thanks to all the volunteers. Let's give a big hand to all the volunteers who organized this. And I can't remember who said talk is cheap. I think it was you, Norm. I spent my whole career talking. It was pretty cheap, actually. You got a pretty good deal. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, and take care.